Welcome to week 2 of A Witch Is. Today we are joined by the marvellous Marnie, and today our topic is A Witch is a Shapeshifter. So welcome, Marnie. Tell us a little bit about your background in comedy and what's going on.
Hi, I'm Marnie. I have been in comedy for maybe 2 years. Only been a few months in stand-up, but I was in improv world for a long time before that.
And you did Improv Conspiracy as well. Like, that's where we have some friends in common, which is...
We do. Yeah. We have lots of friends in common, Jane. I collected the whole set at Improv Conspiracy. There's like courses and friends.
Yes.
And bar staff and everyone.
Friends with everyone.
I was lonely. I was collecting people.
Yeah. So, and we recently did Raw together. That was exciting. We didn't get in because we didn't, but that's fine. We're not going to talk about that. I'm not bitter or anything. But
it was probably a bit much for people. You did bits on pegging. I got my tits out. It was...
Actually, missed out him.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing one of your favourite jokes?
Actually, one of my favourite bits, which is terrible because I don't know, she's probably listening, because my girlfriend wrote a song about me, named after me.
Wow.
For me, and is recording it. When someone writes a song for you, because I hadn't heard it yet, I was preparing for it, and it's like the first time having sex. Which is, if it's disappointing, you can't say anything. And you just have to go along with it like you're enjoying it.
Yeah. And just wait for the inevitable end. Like, oh yeah, that was great for me too, I promise.
Yeah. And then I just excuse myself afterwards and then put on AirPods.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a lovely song, or it's a work in progress at least.
No, it is. It is absolutely lovely. And yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And I love my girlfriend. So
we're obviously all here as well. So we've got Belle, we've got Em. Say hi, guys. Hello. Anything new?
Hi, guys.
Anything exciting?
I am just off the back of a festival. So I look very fresh, as you can imagine. But I went to Charlie XCX yesterday. So I'm still on a high from that. It was one of the best sort of festival concerts I've been to in a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And like, I haven't been to festivals since I was like in my early 20s, and now I'm really old and decrepit and barely leave the house. But I left the house yesterday, and not only did I see Charlie XCX, I got totally drenched. Mm-hmm. So for 2 hours I was standing in the rain with about, I don't know, 30,000 other people, maybe more, in like this mosh pit, which was increasingly becoming this kind of like mud pit.
Mud wrestling pit.
Yeah. And I was saying to the girls just before, it wasn't just like you're a little bit wet, a little bit damp, a little bit rained on. Like, it pelted down these massive drops of water, and to the point where I was wearing a sheer lace dress with a bodysuit underneath, and I absolutely didn't have a jumper. I had a T-shirt that I'd put over the top for a bit of modesty, but like you could see everything. And at one point I was so wet that when I like clenched my butt cheeks, I was basically like wringing out the water out of the bodysuit. And then that was like running down my legs as if I was peeing.
Oh my God. That whole scenario makes me feel so overstimulated already.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, at least you get to say you spent Valentine's Day with Charlie XCX. Like,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That is so cool.
She didn't want to make out with me, but it was fine.
Oh, shame about that.
And what did you do for Valentine's Day, Em?
Oh, guys, well, I wasn't with a man, I can tell you that.
Were you with Banana?
No, not even that. I actually did a speed dating gig, so I hosted it. And I hosted a comedy version of it. So I had to banter with my co-host, who's like the grumpy trucker, we call him. So he and I were hosting it. There was like 20 people. 2 girls turned up. They bailed. Yep, they walked in. They're like, no, turned around, walked outside. So I went out to them and I was like, hey, how you going? You here for the speed dating? They're like, no, we took one look and we're going to go. I was like, well, thank you so much for coming anyway. I completely understand. Like, I get it. Like, if it's not your vibe, not your people, just, run.
Call it early.
Yeah.
But what I took away from it, because I've never experienced it, I've never done it. I've done speed dating once, but I've never hosted it. Okay, comedy version, if anything. And I just bantered. Like, I was just flirting with everybody and flirting with the co-host and just being, you know, the nut that I am. But everybody mingled at the end. Like, nobody left. Everyone formed a group and started chatting, and I got hugs at the end, and like, it was amazing. It was good fun, and I got paid too.
Well, I mean,
I'm
can't
rolling
complain
in
about
it.
that.
She got the bag.
Yeah.
Because comedians never get paid. So,
No.
you know, it was really nice to be able to be like, yeah, I get a paycheck after
Get a
this.
paycheck.
Yeah. So I can say I'm professional now, right?
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Totally. I
qualified.
would. I would. So wait, let me just clarify. When you said 2 chicks walked in and they left immediately, so was it then just a sausage fest? Was it just men?
It was women and men.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying there were only 2 women and they left immediately.
I thought that too. I thought, this was nearly a really happy ending because they all just mingled at the end and you were bantering with everyone. They
There
started
was an
flirting with each
orgy
other.
at the end.
I am terrible at explaining things. Oh my goodness. No, 2 females took like one look at the men and were like, nah.
No,
I'm
we're
out.
done. Like,
Yeah.
I think we've all been on dates where you take one look at the person you're on a date with and you're like, yeah, nah, I'm done.
It was, I will give it to you, like when we were standing there waiting for everyone to turn up, it did feel like we were at a party and no one kind of, you know, made it, and we were just sort of like standing there, and we had a little headpiece that felt like, you know, a Wish version of Britney Spears, but I'm just like, Dave, what are we doing?
It's Britney, bitch. Yeah. I've done it. I'm just saying. Okay, so we're going to get started into a witch is a shapeshifter, and we're going all the way back to ancient Mesopotamia. There was this goddess called Inanna, and one of the very first recordings of poems that we have is about Inanna. Now, somewhere along the line between Mesopotamia and Sumeria, they joined, and we have this goddess called Ishtar. So Ishtar and Inanna, one and the same at some point in history. You might know the Christian holiday Easter. Easter's all about fertility, right? And that's why you've got the Easter eggs and you've got the rabbits, because rabbits fuck like crazy, I guess. I can't think of why else rabbits are involved, but it originally comes from this goddess called Ishtar. Ishtar, Easter, you know, gets lost along the way. But she was the queen of heaven. She was also the goddess of sex, war and justice. But she had a very interesting power, and that was the fact that she was able to turn people's gender, and it was seen as a positive thing. If you're struggling with your identity, you could pray to this goddess and she would change your gender, which I thought was really interesting. So one of the very first recordings of a poem we have talks about the fact that Ishtar turned someone's maleness into a female for the awe of the people. So we're talking about this being like a good positive thing, right? This is from the 23rd century BCE. So a long fucking time ago, okay? Oh, also, fun fact, she ended up having a cult. Like, there were cults of men that were dedicated to her. I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, she's my spirit animal now.
I mean, I feel like someone going from male to female and having a cult is actually very much my vibe.
Yeah.
Where do I sign up?
We skip forward a bit. We talk about Anubis, who is the Egyptian god. He's often associated with having a jackal head and then a male body. And not a lot of people realize, but Anubis actually died. And then when they died, they turned into a person called Lady Kayura. Now, why is this important? When Anubis died, the act of them transitioning, it was like a symbolization of the passing of a dead name, dead life, and moving on to a truer self. An important thing about Anubis's history is they talked about the transition being more than just a change in wardrobe and hair, but also a psychological and social process. So once again, we see that this is just normal, I guess, process of life, and it was accepted for a very long time. Did you know about this history? Like,
I did vaguely. I knew about the Ishtar thing because a few people have talked to me about that before.
there's a reason why we don't know a lot of these things, and we'll get to that.
Yeah, I'm curious now. Can we know about it now? I'm desperate.
You know what we're getting into. You've seen my PowerPoint skills.
I'm like, but I want to know now.
Yes. Look, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it has to do with a bunch of cis-het white men.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, I'll wait.
But the first kind of transition between us seeing this as a good thing with deities and turning into a bad thing with sorcerers or witches was we went away from it being a gender thing to being a special thing. Anyway, so there's this drawing. It's called The Sorcerer, and it's a person that is transitioning from a human into a deer. So it's one of our very first cave paintings. And then we go into ancient Greece. And there is the Odyssey. So everyone knows about the story of the Odyssey. It's one of the oldest records written by a man, of course, about other super cool white dudes. But in that, we have the first instance of this being a really bad thing, and that is Circe. Now, Circe was a goddess. The story goes she was raped and persecuted by a bunch of men, and as punishment, she turned them into animals. I love the thought of turning a guy into an ant and just like burning.
Yes, with the magnifying glass.
This is what you get for ghosting me.
Yeah. This stuff is just important to know where we've come from to where we are. But the funniest story I found in this whole discovery process was this story called The Metamorphosis of Apelles, but it's often called The Golden Ass, or Ass. It's one of the only ancient Roman novels in Latin to survive in its entirety. And it's a story of a guy called Lucius who decides, I want to do magic, does magic, wants to turn into a bird, and he accidentally transforms himself into an ass, into a donkey.
I love that. Like men, like continuously making mistakes.
Right? Like you can't even do magic right, dude.
No.
Like he ends up joining a cult as well. So I don't know. Lots of people join cults. Now, this is my favorite fact that I found. In the 12th to 14th century, which is when obviously the Bible is raining gold and everyone's talking about this white dude that was born in the Middle East. I don't know, some guy. Monks suddenly had a moral problem of wet dreams. And they were like, why are we having wet dreams? Is it sinful? The answer was yes, it was sinful. But they figured that it wasn't because of anything in their mind that was happening. No, what actually was happening was that female figures were devils capable of transforming themselves into the appearance of females in order to tempt monks into sexual sin and were sitting on them during the night.
Can we just like take note that like men are still not taking accountability for their own actions?
It just reminds me of the story. I don't know if it's an urban myth of the monk that was caught taking meth and having orgies.
Oh, I love that like throughout history we have all these records of like men just being like, oh, well, it wasn't my fault. It wasn't me. Like, what?
I think that's a pattern happening here.
Yeah. And obviously throughout history there's, with the rise of witchcraft becoming a bad thing and becoming demonic, there's a lot of imagery that's come out of shapeshifting. It's also important to mention that shapeshifting was quite big in a lot of Indigenous tribes as well, but it wasn't necessarily seen as a bad thing. And that's what's important here, is that it's not necessarily seen as a bad thing until we get the good old Catholic Church involved. Shapeshifting is one thing, but sexual identity is another thing. How are they connected? Now, while there aren't a lot of records that suggest or talk about transgender history, particularly in the Middle Ages in Europe, when you look at the statistics of, I guess, how many trans-identified people make up the population, as well as people that are born with intersex conditions, there would have been at least about 114,000 trans and 9,500 intersex people living in 14th century Europe alone. So it's really important to recognise that they obviously were a significant and valuable part of human history, even if we don't necessarily hear those stories. Now, something that's important is to acknowledge that surgery obviously wasn't an option until relatively recently, but people were able to use clothing and gender roles and duties in society to distinguish their gender. The very first instance we see of someone being arrested for this and persecuted is someone by the name of Eleanor Reichner. So Eleanor Reichner existed in a time in England after the plague, so 1348 to 1349. It wiped out a bunch of people died, sucks, whoops. There were a lot of female apprenticeships that were suddenly available, and they became a female apprentice in prostitution as well as embroidery. They were arrested for sodomy, so not for being a prostitute, but mainly for sodomy, which once again comes back to the Bible saying that sodomy is bad. And they confessed at their trial to sleeping with both men and women, from aristocrats to nuns and priests, as well as 3 knights. All I have to say to Eleanor is good fucking job. That's a good list.
I also love that it's 3 nights. It's very specific.
Very exact.
Yeah.
Exactly. She's like living the dream.
Right? I think also as well, because there were so many aristocrats and knights involved, they were like, we better, But they also confessed, and this is the thing, when I say confess, you got to take it with a grain of salt, because confession, as Belle would know being a lawyer, confession these days versus back then, 2 very different things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think after you've been tortured enough, you'd kind of confess to anything. But they did confess that they once lived as a man under the name of John. And there's a couple of other stories we see in history where there's transgender people. There's a great story called Roman de Silence, and it was written in 1275. This was actually a love story, and it was about a person who was born as a female and assigned a female by nature, but they decide to live as a man after consultation with the forces of nurture and reason. And that's what it actually says in the book. So they were then raised as a knight and trained as a minstrel. So once again, we see that although you couldn't have the surgery, you could still change your identity based on what jobs you took up and stuff like that. The most important case that I think is really fascinating is a monk called Saint Marinus. Have you heard of Saint Marinus?
No.
No.
Marinara sauce. No. Saint Marinus was actually canonized. They were assigned a female at birth, but they chose to enter a monastery and live as a monk. By putting on a monk's habit, it didn't only just cover, obviously, the genitals, but any sort of reproductive sexual life with the veil of celibacy. Clever. Unfortunately, they were ejected because it was thought they impregnated a local girl. But what actually most likely happened, obviously we can't prove this, was that they quite potentially got pregnant. They couldn't have a pregnant monk, so they were ejected, and then they got added back into the church, and they took on the role of a father and allowed the son to come into the monastery, and they adopted the son. And
I feel like if they actually got someone pregnant, they should be promoted in the church for that.
yeah.
Particularly for a son as well.
Yeah, this is what they want.
Yeah. I'm quite harsh on the Catholic Church because I think obviously it's led to just a horrendous amount of death and persecution. But I think this is
abuse.
Abuse. This is a really interesting case where they're like, oh, we can't have a pregnant monk. Go have the child and then come back and we'll let you back in. That's probably what happened realistically. But history obviously doesn't record it that way. They're just like, oh, they got expelled, but then they got let back in and they have this child all of a sudden. Has anyone heard of Joan of Arc?
Only in the name.
I feel like, well, either her Walkman melted or her Mega Drive, depending if you listen to Placebo or Morrissey. But either way, at first she was burnt at the stake. Probably not with a Walkman.
Probably not. So she was burned at the stake. Do you know why?
I always thought it was because she was a witch.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
And because of her involvement in the war as well. I think she had like a leadership role of, I don't know, doing some stuff with some guys and some swords.
With some guys and some swords.
Not everything I say is meant to be sexual, I swear.
Everything can be sexual if you're brave enough. Yeah. Did you guys see Chapel Roan's performance last year? She dressed up as Joan of Arc for the, I want to say VMAs or something.
No.
I didn't see that.
It was beautiful iconography. As a history nerd, I was like, oh, love it. And this should be the biggest hint that Joan of Arc is a bit of an interesting one. History would have us believe that Joan of Arc was murdered because she led the French against the English. That is the common story most of us are told.
I sort of have like the same familiar feeling, like, you know, that was what we were taught at school as well, that it was because of how she led the, you know, the French and such.
I feel like Joan of Arc would have loved Instagram Live. Like, can you just imagine live streaming that? All right, we're going into battle, everyone.
Like and subscribe.
I love how random you are, Belle. Like, I'm just like, yeah, we learned this at school. She's like, Instagram.
Sorry, this is a really serious historical discussion and I'm about to ruin it.
No, something that is important, and we brought this up last week, was history has this way of looking at women as to their life stages. So you're a maid, you're a mother, or a crone. Now, Joan did identify regularly as a maid. That's fine. There's no one debating that. However, she was actually burnt at the stake for heresy because she wore men's clothing and acted as a knight. She wasn't allowed to. She was a woman. And the English captured her, and they did focus on the fact that, oh, you know, God spoke to her and she killed a bunch of English guys. Oh, what a loss. Oh no. So sad. They accused her of being a witch because of her masculine presentation. So transphobia was actually the central tenet of Joan's trial. And she never once said that she would stop wearing men's clothing or that she would stop fighting in the war. She was adamant till the day she died, I didn't do anything wrong. And I love that. I love a queen who's just like, fucking burn me. Like,
yeah. I kind of like how she, you know, died with pride.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she just went all out. She's like, okay.
Let me wear the pants.
Yeah.
I want to wear these pants in the office. Like,
yeah.
Like, I like to dress really feminine, and then sometimes I like to dress like a man and like named Jared. But the
little skateboard.
Like, I like to switch, you know, bit of a surfer dude, bit of a girly girl. But like, yeah, I got called a dag because I wore like jean shorts.
Or a
and-
tomboy.
yeah. Can't we just wear what we want? Like it's not, it shouldn't be associated with gender, like what you wear at all. You can wear whatever the heck you want.
It's definitely like it's an important part of expression. And I feel like, Marnie, you're always, I want to steal your wardrobe one day. Yeah.
Yes. And for those of you that can't see, she's in this like fabulous pink blazer with them like almost same shade pink gradient pleated skirt. She looks fabulous.
incredible.
Stunning. Yeah.
Thank you. People always try and steal my wardrobe. I have to fight them off.
I would love to like, pry through your wardrobe and see all your like goodies and what else? Is it all just pink or do you have like a variety of things or like what do you enjoy showing off in?
I actually do have a lot of pink in my wardrobe. I also have a drawer full of glasses, full of spectacles.
Oh, wow.
I have a thing. I think since COVID onwards, I've just been collecting spectacles. It's almost like I have a subscription. I've got different shades of pinks and purples and clear spectacles.
Cool.
I like that. It's like another way of, showing off your like personality through your lens. I like that.
Yeah.
This is where all my money goes, by the way. It's just spectacles.
I'm like the sort of girl that likes wearing like grandpa glasses. So I think that's like going to be like my
the,
next purchase.
The clear ones that have the
like
clear
the, with
see-through.
the rim and like, the clear.
Like Jeffrey Dahmer kind of vibe.
Yeah. She
Yeah. That's way better than the thought I
Exactly your
had.
vibe.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Em's going to kill us all after this.
Yeah, exactly. No, anything to scare the men off is my
Yeah.
approach. Yeah.
You will get a cult that way, though.
Yeah. How do we get cults? This is what we need to discuss.
Yes.
Yeah. How do we create one? Everyone transfer me all your money now.
Or maybe we just do that to like the sale of our tickets.
yeah, exactly.
It's the real thing with all the trans people, even like Joan of Arc, everyone just ends up with their own like cult.
Yeah.
If not a big leadership in some kind of political or war movement, you just end up with followers.
Yeah.
I mean, Joan of Arc must have been very charismatic to be able to pull all of that stuff off.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys are aware, but Joan of Arc became big because she said she heard the voice of God. The voice of God told her to win a battle. I can just imagine her being so incredibly intelligent, watching these guys like just fuck up war strategy. And she's like, God told me that we should, because they wouldn't listen to her as a female. So she's like, no, yeah, God told me that we should do this instead. And then she wins this war for them. And they're like, oh, but you dressed as a dude.
Do you think it was like her way of being heard amongst the men because they weren't listening to her because she's a woman? So she's like had to throw in the God thing.
Had to be like, God told me to do this. Also, I'm dressed like a man. Therefore, you have to take me seriously.
Exactly. So they were like, oh, yeah, right. God totally said that. Yes, we must listen now.
So what do they want, though? They wanted to win the war. Did they want her to show up in a ball gown and conduct the battlefield?
Yeah. Wave a magic wand.
Yeah.
Like little fairy godmother and...
Oh, we won the war.
Pop a bottle of champagne.
You've got to think like during this period of time, women weren't allowed to hold positions of powers. And so no matter what she did in that situation, she couldn't win. She was going to get killed at one point or another or,
I think there are some interesting parallels as well about how you carry yourself and what you wear and how then you're perceived in whatever environment you find yourselves in. So like I work in a very corporate, very conservative environment in my 9 to 5 and I absolutely find myself thinking about, oh, well, if I come into the office with like beautiful, like long nails that have been, manicured and they've got diamantes on them, if I'm not in the pencil skirt and the blazer and kind of happy to be, smiley and welcoming and very perfectly pleasant, like people will see you like in this negative light. You're difficult or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Or you like wear something and you're distracting, you know what I mean?
Well, exactly.
Too
You're
revealing.
immediately sexualized.
Yeah.
And it's like, actually, I'm just here to do my job like everyone else, like all of like the men here.
But a man can turn up in a suit and all the women go, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You look so good.
Yeah. Woman in like a nice like revealing shirt. Nah, you're turning me on like just.
I can't work with you here because I'm just staring at those.
I'm sorry you have the mind of a rapist. Not my fault.
Yes.
That's how I think now.
Yeah. Sorry for your lack of self-control.
Yeah.
Female like lesbians and stuff are not raping women
No.
Because like they're not, looking at their cleavage and going, yep, you're turning me on. I'm going to drag you into the bushes right now. Like it's a male thing.
Yeah. I want to move on to, I guess, cases that weren't just beautiful old Europe, because we know that's problematic. And something I found really interesting, and ancient Hinduism in particular has a lot to do with transgender intersex communities and people. They recognize, and a lot of Thailand as well, they recognize this third gender. My partner's Buddhist and we were having a chat about it last night, and he said, well, Buddha wasn't necessarily a masculine identity. They kind of later became that, but they've shapeshifted into different animals, different genders, things like that. So it's not uncommon, I guess, in a lot of South Asian cultures to have this third gender or to have people who are trans, and that's fine. In doing my research on this, I found that there's this community, and I apologize in advance because this word hijara can be used as a slur in other cultures. However, in this context, I'm not using it as a slur. This is a community of people in parts of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal. They're in these communities and they're called hijara. That's how they identify as. In India in 2014, actually, the Supreme Court recognized hijara as a third gender, third sex. They also have this as an option on some of their passports and official documents. So you are able to identify essentially as non-binary or as hijara if you feel like you don't fit into the binary male or female. Parts of India were taken over by Islamic states, so they became Islamic states during times. But this didn't actually stop the hijara from operating at all. Hijara have been operating for a very, very long time. They were actually given positions in elite households. They also worked as laborers, as military commanders, political advisors, and guardians of the harem. Where this changes is the French. The French came over in 1650 and they noted the presence of men and boys who dressed like women. And this was taken as a sign of the city's depravity. So French are obviously Catholic Christian. They're like, oh, what is this? Gets even worse when our best friends, the British, come on over. In 1858, they started the eradication of hijara practices. They actually would try and convince the populations that this is against God's will. This is disgusting. We don't do this in the civilized world. And they saw it as a breach of public decency. And they didn't even give people who identified as hijara or who existed in these communities an opportunity to, I guess, change. They just killed them because they said they were incapable of moral transformation. So they were like, you're immoral. There's no way we can fix your immoral soul. You are the devil. Die. Hijara do still exist. They have a lot of their own communities that are completely owned, operated by hijara and people who identify or who don't identify in the binary male or female or who identify as trans. Unfortunately, there's still a large portion of people that are impacted by colonialism. So they still see them as just not worthy of existing in society. So unfortunately, a lot of people still run away from home, but they get income from performing at ceremonies. Unfortunately, sometimes the only work they can find is in begging and prostitution as well. And violence is still quite often brutal and even occurs in public spaces, police stations, prisons. So once again, we're still seeing persecution of people who are other.
It's nice to know in India too, they still have the same problem. The only way you can get a job is in performance.
Yeah.
You just get a job as a drag queen.
Yeah. I was thinking back to RuPaul because he got really big in the 90s. I think he's been around for a very long time, but the 90s is kind of where he started.
He took off, yeah.
He took off. And drag now is so popular. And I think that's so powerful as well as having that opportunity to have such a platform where it's like, yeah, people have been doing this forever. This isn't something new. Now we get into the sad part where I talk about why we don't know a lot of this history. Has anyone heard of Magnus Hirschfeld?
No.
Okay. So Magnus Hirschfeld, now I'm just going to put a little disclaimer out there. He was a racist piece of shit. And unfortunately, people can be really good at something and then really bad at something else. But he was a doctor in Germany and he believed that a person could naturally be born with characteristics that don't fit heterosexual or binary categories. And he also supported this idea of a third sex or Geschlecht, and that existed naturally. He, and I'm not saying this word as a slur, but he coined the very first word that was used, which is transvestites. And he said that it pertains to anyone who wished to wear clothes of the opposite sex or those who, from a point of view of their character, should be considered the opposite sex. So Now, this is what's astounding. So this is in 1919. So over 100 years ago, there is this brilliant German doctor, and he bought this Berlin villa and he opened the Institute for Sexual Research. And this institute was solely to focus on, there's not this binary. Why do we believe in this binary? You know, there's a lot of people that exist. Now, Magnus himself was a homosexual man, and he opened this institute as a safe haven for people to come who felt like they didn't fit in society. And it was a beautiful, beautiful safe haven. And in 1930, it wasn't him, but another doctor there performed the very first modern gender affirmation surgeries in the world. It felt like as the world was happening, we were moving forward, and there's this really great, you know, it's such an interesting story. And unfortunately, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Nazis. Not sure. Yeah, no.
I wish I hadn't.
Passing, yeah.
I wish I hadn't, yeah.
So they're rising up, and unfortunately, they spread this idea that it was dangerous to families if you didn't fit into gender stereotypes. So they came in May 1933, ransacked the villa, burnt over 20,000 historical and rare books on gender identity and sexuality. So that's why it's very hard to find stories about the history of transgender people who don't identify in the binaries, because a lot of these books were burnt, and they were burnt by the Nazis.
And isn't that such a symbol of information being power? So for them, whatever was in those books would have perhaps given comfort to people that perhaps felt a little bit different, or felt like, you know, because I don't fit into one of these two binary options, you know, where does that leave me? And so that they were just so worried about what people might find in that information.
You know, Nazi Germany was just another witch hunt. Like, that's all it was.
Yeah.
It was...
Well, what did they wanted? Blonde hair, blue-eyed, white-skinned, heterosexual, you know, nuclear family unit kind of vibe.
Sounds so familiar.
Yes. I feel like Elon Musk did like a really similar speech to that in Germany of all places recently.
And this is why we need history. This is why we need to talk about, you know, where have we come from? Where are we going to? Because history is the greatest teacher of, I guess, humanity and the lack of humanity in some instances.
And I think it's important to reflect on, well, why does this happen? And I think it's often like a byproduct of fear. It's fear of the other, or fear of what you don't know, that then leads people to kind of lash out. And not lash out is probably understated in some of these contexts. I think we have to reflect and think about, well, why are we going that way as a society?
Because it seems to be doing like another full circle. You know what I mean? Like, it seems to be that pattern throughout life, is that, like, you know, you evolve and then you go backwards, you evolve and you go backwards, and that's exactly what's happening. It's frightening.
It feels like some level of insecurity, some extreme level of insecurity, though, if you're afraid of roughly 1% of the population.
Absolutely.
I'm wondering if you had like a 1919 Blair White or like Caitlyn Jenner.
My biggest thing with Caitlyn Jenner is I don't understand how she's become part of the Republican side of things. Like, that's what I don't get. I'm like, how do you support people who so blatantly hate you?
It's very pick me. It's not the idea that, like, if I join them, I'll be like the one that they leave protected when they kill everyone else. Like, that attitude, you know. That. I just wonder if they did that. I wonder if trans people just joined the Nazis under that pretense even then.
Yeah. I mean, and this is the thing, like, even in the very first instance of Eleanor Reichner, her biggest clients were straight representing men. And, like, there's no way that there weren't homosexual Nazis. There's no way that there weren't trans Nazis. Like, there's just no, like, historically we know these things naturally occur.
We just didn't have Nazi Pornhub analytics. Like, 'cause I'm sure there was like a lot of this going on.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Like, you wonder how much of it comes from the fact that they're like repressing their true selves, and rather than coming to terms with it, they're like, no, kill them all, burn them.
But does that then go back to fear? Like, they're either projecting their own fears about their own identity or just fear of the unknown.
They just feel threatened.
Like, something I found really interesting, and I think everyone kind of knows this, is in England, particularly around the time Shakespeare was popular, they would dress up because women weren't allowed to be on the stage, so they'd dress boys up as women. It's like the hypocrisy. It's like, on one hand, you have them killing people because they were not dressing the way a woman or a man should dress, or not undertaking occupations a man or a woman should undertake. But at the same time, they're like, oh, but if you do it for our entertainment, it's okay. It's that double standard of, if it's for us, if it serves a purpose for me, it's okay.
There's this really great episode of Arrested Development where there's a school play, and instead of obviously getting, conforming to that kind of traditional thing where you get a male student to be in a female role, they have a female in a male role. But it's so great because then they've got this young female, and it's obviously a comedy. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but they've got, maybe like with this like sort of painted on moustache and in all the male clothes. It's amazing. It's so funny. And I think it's probably that fuck you to like, the Shakespeare of the time. Like, look at what women can do now.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing I wanted to say about Magnus Hirschfeld, in 1921, he organised the first International Congress of Sexual Reform on the basis of sexual science, because he was a doctor first and foremost. And so his whole thing was like, this is science. Like, we observe this in animals. Humans are animals. We're observing it. So the World League came into existence in 1928, and there were representatives. So July 3, 1928, they were representatives from England, the United States, Canada, Germany, France, Russia, Austria, Switzerland, Czechoslovakia, Italy, the Netherlands, Belgium, Spain, Japan, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Iceland, Lithuania, Egypt, Liberia, Argentina, Chile, the British Indies, and Malaysia. This is 1928, guys. We're in 2024, and a bunch of those countries are now very transphobic.
I mean, Malaysia just banned, I just know people who've written books that are designed to just express the notion that it's okay to be who you are. And, Malaysia has been banning those books now.
Oh, wow. So
No way.
It's not okay to be who you are. You have to be what they say.
Yes, you have to be who they say. They've gone back to the book burning in Malaysia now.
The reason why I wanted to bring up Dr. Hirschfeld was mainly because of the fact that, a lot of talk around the Nazi ideal and what we're seeing in the world today, and a lot of talk around, the fact that, Christianity, Catholicism has a lot to do with witch hunts. And that's, once again, a bunch of white dudes getting off on a book written by a bunch of white dudes. But I found this quote really important, and you can take out the word Nazi and put in Trump, I guess. But the Nazi ideal had been based on white cishet masculinity masquerading as genetic superiority. Any who strayed were considered depraved, immoral, and worthy of total eradication. What began as a project protecting German youth and raising healthy families had become a mechanism for genocide. And this isn't the first time America has gone down this path, let's be honest. So in the 1950s, they had the Red Scare, but part of that was also the Lavender Scare, where anyone who was homosexual was considered a sexual pervert. So President Dwight Eisenhower signed an executive order in 1953 barring gay and lesbian people who he called sexual perverts from government jobs and security clearance. And there were headlines at the time of the government's begin purging homosexuals. It was called the Lavender Scare. And of course, I know it's just saying homosexuals there, but anyone who was, I guess today would identify as LGBTQIA plus in that spectrum would have been victimized by this. And then on January 23, 2025, we have an article that says Trump administration moves to reject transgender identity and rights. Within hours of returning to power on the Monday, he issued a broad executive order that was seeking to dismantle crucial protections for transgender people and denies the validity of gender identity itself, and famously came out and said there will only be two genders. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. We're back to the witch hunts.
So awful.
Yeah. You feel like as a society we've come so far, and yet
we go backwards.
But it can just all be undone in just the click of a hand.
One of the best things we did recently was the ability for people to carry non-gender, agender, or non-binary IDs.
Yep.
Because more so than, clothing and presentation, I actually thought a bigger deal was the ability to have a non-gendered passport.
Correct.
Because that doesn't affect your ID at all.
Yeah.
You don't need your identity of your gender on a passport to travel the world. I think it's ridiculous.
If you need that to work out me versus someone else, I feel like customs is a bigger issue than anything on my ID.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have bigger problems.
Who are you letting walk into your country?
Can I ask you though, you won't be setting foot in America anytime soon, will you? Do you feel safe going there or?
No, I'm definitely not even before this, I wouldn't have any way. I had to be very selective as a person of color going to, America as it was.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something that adds an extra complexity, doesn't it? Like, you're also a person of color, you're also trans. And it's like, well, there's just no way America's like ready for that, which is so bizarre.
I don't tick any of the boxes.
Yeah.
I'm neurodivergent as well. It's like I'm just getting like crosses on all my marks here.
You got the bingo card, but they're like, this is the wrong one.
Yeah.
I think America is just becoming one of those countries you want to steer clear from now. I think Australia has come a long way. We still have a lot to learn.
Yeah, but it is
follow
scary.
Trump's footsteps.
Scary to think about what that kind of influence and what those statements could actually then do in Australia. And I'm sure there are people that share those views in Australia, and those voices will only be amplified and will only be empowered by those statements from Donald Trump, which is obviously not what any of us want.
I think it's twofold though, because partly it's the administration that's in, but it's partly the people that want it, because it's only there because the people want it. At least people here are very different. So I'm somewhat hopeful people stay that way.
And when you say different, do you think like people are more accepting or people are more tolerant here or it's our culture or?
Yeah, I think from my experience, I think it's been our culture. I don't like to say tolerant because I don't think people just being who they are needs to be tolerated at all.
Yeah.
Tolerate your existence.
Like it's okay. It's kind of like when there's too many blowflies and like you're okay with like some flies in the house. I feel like you don't need to be tolerated. But like, I felt like to a lot of people here, it just doesn't matter to them. And I don't think it should matter to them. It kind of...
Well, it doesn't affect you. Like if you can do one tiny thing to make someone else feel like a little bit more comfortable or a little bit more welcomed or invited, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't, like, it just seems insane to us.
Like I've got some people in my life and I have grown up with very problematic people who have had very strong opinions about LGBTQ, and I grew up in that and I never followed it. I was very like wary of it and I knew it was like wrong. I was like, why are you judging these people? What are they doing to you? Nothing. And so I called out these people one day and I kind of just like slammed the table down because I can face it now. I'm a stronger woman, is not a child anymore. So I was like, no, I am in fact, a bisexual, and I've been told for so long like how wrong it was, and I've slammed my hand down and said, no, like, stop speaking of them like that. Like, it's not okay anymore. Just stop,
it's really
trying
to
really put them in their place. And it does like shock them. They're just kind of like, oh, okay, you don't need to, be so loud. And I was like, actually, I do.
You do need to call people out, because at the end of the day, I think being silent is what has led to a lot of these atrocities, is because they want to silence people. They want to shut people up. That's why we don't see a lot of these stories. We're not taught this history in school. We're not taught like, hey, this naturally occurs and that's okay, and let's just honor it.
I do have a question for you. How was your upbringing? Did you feel supported? Do you have a very good circle around you? Like, what was that like growing up?
My upbringing was extremely homophobic, extremely transphobic. I thought I did a great job covering it up growing up, but in retrospect, the fact that I just openly watched Mardi Gras when I was 16 probably meant that they knew from very early on. I don't really have a relationship with my family now, and I kind of feel like I don't owe people anything. I don't want one if people are not fully on board with everything. It's also very scary because I grew up in what was a smallish country town that was predominantly white. I was the only child of colour in my community while I was growing up for quite a while, till I got maybe 10 years old. I kind of grew up feeling like all the prejudice, all the aggression was just normal. I just assumed that, when you grow up with something, one of the things that we had in the house was a cuckoo clock. And it would go off every hour. And when I think back to it, I don't understand why this existed. But it freaked me the fuck out that Well, when I got to 18, it freaked me the fuck out that other people didn't have this issue.
Because it was so normal to you.
Yeah. I just assumed everybody gets angry on the hour once every hour and wants the clock to fucking shut up. Even though you bought the clock, you could do something about this. You could just get a normal clock.
So in this instance, this is you accepted the hate for so long because you were like, well, that's just normal. Like this vitriol that you're feeling from this community is that?
Surely everyone feels this.
Yeah.
And then I got a bit older. I went to university and realised, wow,
That wasn't normal.
yeah, people have so much easier lives than this.
I can't imagine like having that extra complexity of like having race brought into it, having gender identity brought into it. Like that's just like
Completely layered. It's amazing how your beautiful personality is still like shining through despite all of that.
Thank you. I think despite is the word. It's one of those things that when you grow up, you don't realise you're doing it, but you value what your parents say so much more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And then when you get older, you realise they're just people and they can have terrible opinions.
Oh, yeah.
Just like anybody.
Can change you either into, you know, like a beautiful butterfly, or can make you a really hard person, angry and bitter and resentful.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But like, you know what I mean? Like you're still like this beautiful person despite that. So it's
Thank
just
you.
really like good to see how bullying can make or break you kind of thing.
One of the other things is because I have Tourette's and OCD. And I was now that I think about it, quite visibly, obviously trans growing up. So my quite fundamentally religious family thought I was actually devil possessed, I think, for a very long time.
Wow.
If you can think of like a trans person with Tourette's growing up as the only
being on
person
the
of colour,
spectrum.
I was called so many slurs by my parents growing up.
No, really? That's awful.
I thought that was normal too because I had no other point of reference at the time.
Yeah.
now you've got just the one child? Or?
Just the one child.
Yeah.
They're them. They're also like a 17 now. So
Do you think your journey helped them?
Kind of breaking the cycle kind of thing.
Oh, it's a twofold thing. It's a two-part story, really. It's them breaking out the kind of got me to make a decision because they came out really, really young.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And it was difficult. I did, though, get to the point of thinking I'm also now becoming a terrible example to younger people. And I realized with my own child, like with Ash, it became a real problem for me that I really had to make a decision, like, do I want to do something? Because while I thought I'm quite good at keeping this contained and I'm quite good at living functionally, because I'm kind of like at that time the equivalent of like a functioning alcoholic, but with just all of those things.
Functioning alcoholic.
I'm just a functioning person with Tourette's and OCD and neurodivergence. I realized I didn't want to set that example. I didn't want to set that example for other people. And so I ended up coming out after my child, but I realized that I can't, as much as it'll be difficult for me, I don't want to set the example that you should just bottle it up just to make other people happy. And then I realized too that I want to change the relationship with my parents. And I realized all my family in general, that I'm just not going to talk to people that don't give me the basic respect that I deserve, because otherwise what example am I setting to other people that I tell them that it's okay, you should just take it. If people want to spew hate at you from your own family or friends, you should just take it. So I really didn't want that. And so I ended up kind of turning my life around, from that point, really, of just not wanting other people to see me go through that.
And that's so powerful because I think that quite often we put that expectation that a parent can't learn anything from a child. It's the other way around. But I think that parents, particularly in this day and age, I think that children are being raised very differently and we can learn so much from the younger generation. Like I look at my ex-in-laws and they were the most bigoted people you would ever meet. And a big reason why I questioned my marriage to my ex-partner was because of his parents, because he didn't see that there was anything. That's just how they are. And I'm like, well, that doesn't mean we have to accept it. I don't want children with you if they're going to have those people as the grandparents. In this day and age, what can we do to kind of make sure that we're making the world a safer and kinder place for anyone who does feel like they don't conform to those gender binaries?
I think I thought about this so much with everything going on in the world. And I realized what I want to do really is just exist really loudly with love. for people. I just want to exist really openly and really loudly. And it sounds a little bit strange or counterintuitive maybe, but the best thing that I think people could do is nothing. And I say nothing in the sense of if people are being normal, just let people be normal. Sometimes the less that's said in these situations, the better. I will say that doesn't apply when people are being actively promoting any kind of bigoted behaviour in public.
Yeah.
I do think that needs to be called out, but there's so many people that are just living their lives normally, and I think the best thing you can do is get involved on a day-to-day basis, just treating people normally. I can't say how much it means to just get treated normally, and it's been overwhelming how much it happens, but I shouldn't have to get emotional about just getting treated normally, but it means a great deal when it happens. And there's been so many wonderful people who do just act normal.
I liked your quote, how you were saying, like, just let me live loud. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
That idea of like, I want to take up space, you're allowed to take up space, and you're allowed to take up spaces whoever you are and however you want to show up as, I think. It goes for everyone.
If the loud cis white het men are allowed to take up space, then everyone else should
Absolutely.
be. Like, everyone's the same. We all shit and eat. I mean, you said it much more beautifully and eloquently, but if we want to catch you in an upcoming comedy performance, I know you've got one this Tuesday at Crackpot Comedy.
Yes, that's right. I'll be at Crackpot. 18th of Feb, 8 p.m. It's not 100%. I will probably be in Sydney at Brouhaha on the 13th of March as well.
We'll definitely see you around. Do you guys have any gigs coming up you wanted to put out to the world?
I've got one on Thursday, but I can't remember where it is or who it is for, other than I'm like, I've got to do 10 minutes. I need to sit down and think about it. Yeah, it's somewhere in Brunswick.
Cool.
I know that doesn't help. That's useless.
If you want to see Belle Woolley perform, walk around Brunswick on Thursday night and yell out, Belle!
7:30, 8 p.m. If you yell loud enough, I'll come and find you. I'll pull you in, give you a hug.
Now I know when there's a cult of people that is reported walking around in a large group yelling Belle around Brunswick.
Yeah. They're my people.
Do you have any other gigs coming up? You're teaching. You're doing a teaching gig soon.
Isn't it Hard Knock Knocks?
Oh,
I think I saw on
in,
Facebook.
In March.
March?
So, I had to go and mentor a few, pre-comedians.
Yeah.
Look
very
at
fun.
the big shot.
If you want to learn how to be funny like Em, go to Hard Knock Knocks in March.
Like, I'm professional, and then I'll give them my headshot
She'll teach you everything you need to know.
and how to eat a banana.
Most importantly. Awesome. And of course, we have to do the obligatory buy tickets to our show, please. Belle is anal, and she's like refreshing the ticket page like every 5 minutes.
yeah.
She'll send us a text message. She'll be like, I know I said I wasn't going to do it, but
Every hour. It's like the cuckoo clock. I'm like, quick, check red 69.
Well, thank you so much for listening. We are looking forward to seeing you at the show, because if you're listening to this, you're definitely coming to the show. Thank you so much for coming in, Marnie. It's been so good to speak to you.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, more than welcome. Yeah. And we'll catch you guys next time.